What's up, fam? It's your boy Demuir here, purveyor of all sounds underground. Thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel today, where I'll be discussing my specific review of Unfiltered Audio's Silo Reverb tool. Plugin Alliance recently asked me to do this video, so I did it. Of course, I jumped at the opportunity, and it's also a nice little way for me to let you know that it is sponsored and endorsed by them. Healthy thing to do. But before I jump into things, what I need from you is that SLC. Hit subscribe, like, comment, and more importantly, hit the notifications bell to stay in touch with the new videos that we have up and coming. I apologize for some of the background noise if you do catch it in this video. Unfortunately, there's a lot of construction going on, but you'll get the gist of it, and thankfully this room is treated, so you'll get the best sound as possible. All right, so right off the top, I would say this is a reverb that is pretty much a reverb on steroids. It's a reverb meets general synthesis, and I'm not saying general lightly. The sound is absolutely amazing, which you'll hear in a bit. It was started by 4 guys you can see that are obviously very conscious of music and artistry, but as well, they're extremely smart. 2 of them have doctors in front of their name, and the other guy's name is Ben, but spelt with 2 N's, so go figure. It's nice to be different. All right, so let's just jump into the cosmetics. I want to show you what this thing looks like and just talk through each of the pieces at a high level. So right off the bat, you could see that as I said, it's not a traditional reverb at all. But I'm going to take you right into settings because I think this piece is just worth noting. When you jump into the settings here, you see interface in terms of the size of the plugin itself, and the color theme, which I thought was cool. You can move this around to complex, colony, whatever that means, and you can just have it as bleach, which is funny. It reminds me a lot of Ableton from what you can see here, and I gotta say, in terms of its performance, it's not very CPU heavy at all, but we'll get more into the performance and the sound a bit later. The other thing that I'd recommend leaving on under here is workflow is tooltips, because as you're working through things and exploring the tool itself, it'll actually pop up some suggestions as you're working through. And then the typical audio pieces, whether you have anti-aliasing, bypass MIDI in, output limiter, and you can adjust the grains over here. So a lot of great things as you go through this just right off of the bat from a settings perspective. You get some customization here, which I absolutely love. Let's go back to the main screen here. So this is predominantly composed of a granulator, which I would describe as a place where you're going to spend a lot of creative time in terms of how it's affecting the grain rates, whether it looks at tempo or focuses predominantly on frequency. I could show you that right here in terms of the rate. I thought this was really, really cool. You can basically say ignore the tempo altogether, just focus on the frequency pieces, and then you get some interesting things happening. I have some automation happening in the background here, which is probably why you can't see the frequency piece. But I thought that was a really cool thing in terms of how you can generate the grains here. The other component here, if we just move down to the bottom, just talks about the spread and in terms of the speed and the difference between the grains on the left and right channel. You can add a reverse effect as well, and you can also color the shape here. I'm not going to get too much into the technical aspects because you'll see a bit later on how complicated or complex things can be, but I love that because it adds so much creative opportunities for you as an artist and producer. And then we have the window here, which gives a number of different options, again, in terms of how you can shape and affect the signals that's running through this. And then I love this piece, which is freeze, so you can determine as a percentage how much it will hold the old data and how it will be rewritten to the grain buffer. Sounds very complex, but you'll understand the effect as you're listening to things. And then you get your size buffer here from an audio perspective. You can do it in terms of samples, time, in milliseconds, I believe. Yeah, and as high as seconds, 10 seconds to be exact. And then your tempo divisions in terms of the time signatures that are applied, which is another cool piece. I didn't spend too much time on the spatializer here and geometry. I'll probably do another video on this to get really entrenched in the details or the technical aspects. Like, I will say right off the bat, I am not a synthesis guy. I'm not your Kenny Larkin or your Kink, for that matter, that like to get into all the minutia with their screwdriver and tweak little things to see what it will sound like. I'm not that dude. I'm the kind of dude that just likes to jump into things, and I'm happy to say that this plugin offers it. So as we go across here, when we hit the reverb piece, I would say this is probably the most traditional piece, which you wouldn't have to require yourself to read the entire manual to understand. It's probably the easiest component here, which is, you know, normal reverb solo balance in terms of the mix, the tone, like just how it will sound, how it's affected. I love all of the different options here. And then the level of reverb as an effect based on what you set here. So the decay is pretty straightforward, a traditional decay, or you can almost look at it as the size of the room. So the longer the decay, the big, you know, the longer the tail of the reverb will be, so to speak. And then you have the distance, which is just the size of the particular reverb, whether it be a small room or a large room as a typical example. And damping over here applies to the filtering, to the reverb echoes to remove brighter reflections, which is a great description of that piece. So very much traditional reverb here, but then they also add some other cool components in terms of filter, cutoff, and resonance as well on the said filter. And the filter range is broad. We go from a low passive here to an SVF level of filtering, like just incredible stuff. And just in case for those who are wondering what SVF stands for, it's state variable filter. And that's all I'm going to give you right there. It's typically known as a filter that's more well behaved and allows for a bit more coloring, etc., etc. And like I said earlier, I'm not super technical. I'm all about getting into the sounds of things. But what I love about this product cosmetically, as I've just shown you, it's very well laid out. I would say straightforward as you get to understand each of the parameters, whether it's reading the manual or just getting right into it and seeing how it affects the signal. So why don't we do that? Let's just get right into how this thing sounds, which leads me to my second point, which is its boundless levels of creative opportunity here, as we are gonna hear right now. I'm going to throw on my headphones for this. Highly recommend it because you're going to hear a lot of different cool things, even at very low frequencies. All right, so let's go. I started out with just a typical beat loop here. You can see I got a ton of automation on this. I'm just going to spread this right across. And I've already recorded this automation from before because I just liked how it sounded and I didn't want to lose the vibe I was getting in preparation for this video. So let's throw it on the mix. So if you're me as a sample heavy bass producer, I'm already hearing tons of opportunity here. And the other piece I'd missed was the mask. This is a nice sort of overlay in terms of how you're affecting the signal here through the granulator. And it sounds, you know, like some abstract stuff we're doing. But here's the point. This is all coming from a beat loop, guy. If that doesn't rock you, you gotta give your head a shake, because here's the beat loop. Here's how it sounds mixed. It sounds a little crazy. When we throw just a regular beat around it. Now completely remove the beat loop that's there, and I've added a separate beat on top of it. So I simplified the mask. Let's check out the reverb. I'm gonna lower the freeze a bit. This is crazy to me. Check out this reverb. Listen to the quality of it. And it's just tailing right out. And I'm not a huge reverb person. You know, my thing when it comes to effects is like the UAD Galaxy Echo box, you know, for like dancehall stuff. But I see unparalleled and boundless creative opportunity using a tool like this. We just use this on a beat loop, and you can hear all kinds of different crazy things happening there serendipitously. It's just really amazing stuff. Point number 3, and I was hinting at this earlier, but vocals get a whole other life with this thing. So let's have a listen. I actually used this vocal on another track. I think it was with Armada. And anyway, that's a whole other thing. Not a thing I'll do again. But anyway, I digress. This is a great piece to tune up your vocals. Let's listen to the vocal dry. Not quite what I wanted to do because I got the wrong bloody instance up. This is the right one I wanted. Vocal.
Somebody almost walked off with all of my stuff. Not my poems or my dance that I can.
So you hear it dry. I'm
Somebody
bringing in this mix.
Walked off with all of my stuff.
You pitch it. Control the speed. And as you saw earlier, everything is pretty much available to automate within your DAW. So what I just did there, as you could hear, can absolutely be used in song arrangement techniques. And again, it's just boundless creativity here, where I was speeding up the pitch or changing notes with the pitch and stuff and affecting the rate in terms of how it's interpreted. It's just amazing stuff. I could actually see myself doing something like this.
Somebody almost walked off with all of my stuff. Not my poems or my dance that I gave up in the street, but somebody almost walked off with all of my stuff like a
drop. So if you don't see that, you're crazy, man. I would absolutely have a ton of fun doing different and creative things in my song arrangement as a result of this tool being used on a particular vocal. And point number 4, as you've seen, you can easily get lost in this tool, and I think that's an exciting part of it, but it's somewhat a very little schmidgen tiny bit of a distraction. And that's why I think for this plugin and this plugin only, I would highly recommend reading the manual. I myself need to go back at it and check it out to learn different things, but it's only because I'm very interested to know what it's doing and why it's doing the things that it's doing to a particular signal. And once I understand that better, I can effectively apply other creative ideas. But you know, sometimes it's also very good to learn more hands-on and not necessarily read the manual. It wasn't unusual where Amp Fiddler, who is Jay Dilla's mentor, told him, don't even bother reading the manual of the MPC, just in order to allow for that serendipitous discovery of new things creatively to come out in his productions. And thankfully he didn't read the manual. He's left us a ton of great music. So it's entirely up to you is my point here. I'm just saying, with all of the different options, you have the granulator, the spatializer, reverb. You also have, spread, reverse, shape, window, freeze, pause grains. What is a grain and how does it work? What is this mask thing? So it is worth leaving the work tips on as you hover over certain instances, and it tells you what it's doing throughout. But I also recommend you might want to consider reading through the manual just to get the most out of the plugin. All right, and so final thoughts on this one in terms of the price point. At $149, based on everything you're getting out of this tool, I would say it is absolutely worth every dollar that you can spend. Not all reverbs are the same, and I wasn't a big reverb guy to begin with, and I'm still not, but I'm very happy with how Unfiltered Audio has interpreted this one. I think there's just way too many creative options here that come out of this plugin as a result, and really, will influence how the music sounds or how songs are arranged. I can really see that for myself in my own production. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's tons of reverbs out there, and I'm very happy with the job that this one here does, and Logic, the Space Designer reverb, and it fulfills its purpose for vocals and stuff. But I'm not that type of producer. I'm not calling in people to record live vocals and make sure I got the right reverb played on it to make sure it sits well in the mix. I'm just looking for tools that I can run signals through and that give me a number of different creative options and help me to actually discover new things that are exciting to me in the creative process. And Silo is it. For $149 US, I really think you can't go wrong. And frankly, the reverb portion of the plugin itself is very clean, as you heard earlier. You shut it off after the signal runs through it, and post signal is very clean. And I think it sounds great. I would have no qualms about using this as my primary reverb, but as well as a tool to come up with new and outstanding things in my sound. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on Unfiltered Audio's Silo reverb plugin. Let me know your thoughts on it. I usually join a conversation within 48 hours of posting these videos. And much love and respect out to Plugin Alliance for hitting me up to do this review. I really appreciate it. Much love and respect to you.